This week, federal workers are set to miss their first paycheck since the shutdown began, and it's starting to cause some problems. Now, some of the workers who have to work during the shutdown without pay are a lot of aviation workers, so TSA officials and namely air traffic controllers. Now, if this movie feels familiar, it's because we've seen it before. In the last Trump shutdown in 2018 and 2019, one of the things that caused the end of that shutdown was aviation officials like air traffic controllers calling in sick or just not showing up to work after a certain amount of time, not getting paid and having to show up to work. And eventually the Trump administration had to cave and reopen the government because there were major ground stops at huge airports like LaGuardia and Newark and Philadelphia. And so that is widely credited for ending the last shutdown. Now we're starting to see that happen again in airports like Burbank and Nashville and Chicago, and it's starting to get people nervous. And obviously last time, this was a political loser for the Republicans. And I think they know that that caused the end of the last shutdown. And they're starting to see what's happening here in this domino effect. And it looks like they're trying to get ahead of it by, of course, blaming Democrats for this. So let's see, when Donald Trump was asked about this yesterday, how he had to respond to it.
Are you concerned about the delays at airports, and how do you see the shutdown?
Oh, sure. I mean, they're all Democrat delays. There are delays at the airport. That's standard. And again, this is something that every day we put forth a bill. It's just a continuation. It's a very simple thing to sign and very simple to do. And I really think that these are people that I think they have nothing to lose. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, this woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's a low IQ individual. I look at AOC talking about how if they want to negotiate, they can come to my office. She's not in that position to do that. And who the hell is she to say that? And then I watch Nancy Pelosi not knowing what to do. I watch.
Never mind the fact that he couldn't even successfully respond to the question, and he had to turn to his favorite targets, aka women and women of color, to throw jabs at them for no reason. But he clearly knows that there is a problem coming for Republicans, and that this could really blow up into another issue where people are experiencing flight cancellations and flight delays, and that eventually Americans across the country are going to be up in arms about this. But I think something that's interesting too is maybe people would warm to this idea that it's the Democrats' delays if the White House and the GOP weren't threatening to withhold back pay from federal workers even after the shutdown began. Not only is that it's illegal, but it's also something that kills morale. So these people are showing up to work and thinking, oh, am I even going to get paid for this work I'm doing right now? Because the administration is not trustworthy and is trying to do illegal things to hold on to their pay even after the shutdown began. Even Senator Tom Tillis from the GOP said that talking point from the White House is a terrible idea and killing the strategy behind this and isn't a good idea, and that it's a politically stupid move on their part. So while Republicans are trying to withhold back pay from these federal workers during the shutdown, Democrats are taking a different approach. Today, Congresswoman Sarah Elfreth from Maryland had a press conference with Governor Wes Moore in Maryland and talked about the fact that Democrats are proposing legislation to actually protect worker pay during the shutdown. Let's take a look at that.
Workers who live here in Maryland, or Senator also Brooks and I, introducing legislation that will ensure that essential employees like the ones here at BWI are eligible for unemployment insurance in any shutdown. Maryland is fighting to reopen the government with a bipartisan budget deal. Again, reopen the government with a bipartisan budget deal that supports our federal employees without gutting health care for 20 million Americans. We're here at BWI today because 550 TSA agents and 70 air traffic controllers, support staff and management are employed here and currently working without pay as essential employees. And we have a very simple message: shutdowns don't fly.
Pretty stark contrast there between what we're hearing from the administration and what we're seeing Democrats propose. And it's so clear, you see the administration basically trying to divide people and trying to hold groups of people, hostage in this shutdown, basically, and basically dangling these different groups in front of Democrats and saying, well, we're going to hurt these people if you don't, reopen the government. So we're either going to hurt hurt the federal workers, or we're going to make you sign on to something where, 20 million Americans see their insurance either lose insurance or see their premiums skyrocket. And Democrats are trying to say that is not going to fly. Let's pass a bill that doesn't actively harm anybody, particularly Americans who are working paycheck to paycheck and struggling. And, of course, that's not stopping the administration from trying to send other people to get out in front of what this, what we're going to see with this airport and travel chaos. So, they've sent Sean Duffy everywhere the past couple of days. Of course, he had to stop by Fox and Friends to talk about how much he supposedly cares about all of these aviation workers during the shutdown. Let's take a look at that.
They work 6 days a week, right? So we don't have enough controllers, so they have to work overtime. And they're family people, right? This is their living. They're concerned now if they don't get their paychecks. How do I pay my mortgage? How do I pay my car payment? What do I do to put food on the kids' table? So the controllers yesterday were saying, we actually have to think about working 6 days a week. And then do I go out and take an Uber job and try to make extra money to put the food on the table? All because Chuck Schumer is trying to have this political fight instead of saying, let's do a clean CR. Let's open the government up. Let's have a conversation about what Democrats want to talk about, but do that over the course of the next several months. Don't shut it down and affect our airspace, our controllers. Again, it's a huge.
There were a couple of ludicrous parts of that clip. First of all, this whole idea that this healthcare crisis that Democrats are trying to deal with is something that can be taken care of in a few months or at the end of the year is not true. First of all, the crisis is here. People are already starting to get their premium increases for 2026 and seeing that they're going up by 200 and 300%. And so they're already seeing and feeling the pain from that. The end of the year is already here and the crisis is already happening. Kicking the can down the road 2 months is only going to increase people's pain, and it's going to be too late at that point. So that is point number one. Point number two is this, again, him trying to talk about, well, I really feel for these people. And some of them, have to get second jobs after they're done working to make ends meet. Well, guess what? Maybe they also wouldn't be thinking about having to do that if the Trump administration wasn't threatening to withhold their pay. So it is just another case of the administration pretending like they've got no hand in this and there's nothing they can do and they're so torn up about it while turning around and doing something terrible after that, like trying to not pay workers for their hard work and keeping Americans safe in the skies. And speaking of safe in the skies, that is what I'm worried about too. It's as these people start calling out and not showing up to work, you're going to start seeing issues at airports that are beyond delays. You get into safety issues as well, and are planes going to collide and all of that. And that's the problem here is what happens at these airports when people start calling out is basically the air traffic control has to get outsourced to other airports. And so air traffic controllers who are already stretched thin at their airport have to do takeoffs and landings and coordinate that at other airports as well. Eventually that becomes a staggering amount of work, and it's going to put people at risk. So I do want to play something that someone was talking about yesterday at what's going on at the Burbank airport. Let's take a look.
That's right, Colleen. In fact, we just spoke to air traffic controllers here at Burbank Airport in the last few minutes, and they can now confirm that they will be heading home at 4:15 this afternoon. As of 4:15 this afternoon, there will be no air traffic controllers inside of that tower right there. Instead, they will be handing off their duties to SoCal TradeCon. It's their approach and departure team out of San Diego who will be talking to the pilots who are landing and taking off here at Burbank. They are hoping for minimal impacts on travelers, but it is still yet to be determined how severe those impacts will be. As of right now, the FAA is trying to call in additional controllers to come in early before those overnight hours. A fluid situation we're going to continue to stay on top of. Reporting live from Air 7, I'm Chris Christie, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
So there you have it. It's a pretty clear picture here. We've got craziness and chaos piling up at the airports. We've got Republicans trying to hurt the morale of these workers that are already probably in a pretty low place by trying to not pay them at all. And you've got Democrats who are not only trying to solve the healthcare crisis, but on the side also trying to figure out how to provide some financial relief to these workers in the meantime. But if you've got a flight coming up in the next several days, the next couple of weeks, I'd give yourself some extra time. That's it for me today. If you like what you saw, throw a like on this video, follow the Demwins Media YouTube channel, follow me at buildingthebench.substack.com, and we will keep bringing you the news as you need to see it. Thanks for watching.